Hello everybody. I have been asked to show a video of how to process your GoPro footage so that it's a little bit better than what some of us are getting on YouTube. First of all, let me give some credits out there, and I'm going to insert their likenesses. I want to first thank Superballs Supervids for approaching the subject on motovlog.com a while back, and then I want to thank Hippo-Drones for expanding on that in a recent video that he did, explaining how you can take 1080p 60 footage and render it to make it look more like 4K footage. So let's first talk about what we're running into. I've pulled up the support website for YouTube, and as you can see, 1080p bitrate varies from 8 to 12, and maybe depending on HDR you may get 10 to 15, which that is kind of small. For those of you who aren't familiar, bitrate, we're going to use the definition online. It is the number of bits that are conveyed or processed per unit of time. So the bigger the bit rate, the more information that can be passed through at any given moment. Now, how does that affect us? Let's go back to the upload settings. If you look, you can see 4K gets 34 to 45, and maybe even as high as high frame rate, 60 frames per second, 53 to 68, and if it's an HDR, you may even go as high as 66 to 85, which is a whole lot more than what they're giving us at the 1080 level. 2K 1440p, it goes as high as 24 or 30 depending on type of upload you have. We all know that a 4K file takes up a lot more information on your card, and some of the GoPro cameras, it really eats that battery life up. Now, if you look at my test footage here, we got a file size. This is recorded at 1080, about 60 frames per second. We got an MPEG going on, and a file size of 1.17 gigabytes. And this is for a 5.5 minute video. What I'm going to do is load it two ways onto YouTube. Let's go ahead and load it as my 4K. And I'm using Adobe Premiere 15. Let's look at the advanced settings so you can see what I have going on here. Some of it's over here on the side. Resolution 3840 by 2160. 60 frames per second. Bit rate 35, so we can bump that up a little bit. If you notice, my target bit rate's 35, my max is 85. So let's bump the target to about 64, more or less. Okay, so yeah, save that setting. And if you notice, the file size, it went from what, 1.17 to now 2.53 gigs, so you've doubled your file size. While this is rendering, I want to give you a few disclaimers. First of all, because this video is going to be processed and you're going to be seeing the screen recording of it, you're not going to be able to see the finished product directly in this video, so I'm going to put a link in the description of both the finished product of the 4K conversion of the 1080p 60 and of the straight 1080p 60. The next thing I want to explain to you is one of the variables you're going to have is whatever you're viewing this on is going to limit it either in resolution or in how much data is coming to you. So that could be through your internet provider, that could be through your machine, it could be through your screen. So I recommend when you go to watch the final products, you go ahead and look, let them fully load as much as possible, then hit play. And then finally, third variable, if you are watching this through any other website other than YouTube directly, that again could be a throttle on the amount of data coming to you. So I just want to explain that while this thing's rendering. Again, I'll check back with you when it gets done. Okay, so now the video has finished processing. Let's open the folder up. How to make it look so good, 4K. Go to, click on upload video. And we are just going to drag and drop. Let's see how long this takes. So it looks like about a half hour. I'm going to check back with you, and we will go back and do it again, but next time will be 1080p 60 frames per second. So it looks like the upload is finished, so let's go back and do it again, but this time we are going to go through and do it at 1080 60p. One thing I want to do real quick is pull that video into here so I can analyze it. Okay. So that'll take a minute or so. And let's see what it says about it. Where's the properties? Properties. So you see it's at 60 frames per second, 3840 by 2160, file size 2.49 gigabytes. Now, let's go through and do this one at straight 1080. 11 is the setting. Let's go back and look at our recommended upload. So 11, slightly above 10, max 15. Let's look at the advanced settings on this for the 1080 P60, and yeah, we're going 11 to 12, so let's crank that up to what, 15? Is that right? Yeah, let's do that. Cancel it. Let's just leave it where it was. Okay, so we are going to call this the 2. Okay. And I need to hit save. Let's see how long it takes to render straight 1080. Give it a second for it to settle down. Well, we've already dropped past the 1 hour and 15 minutes. We're down to what? About 20 minutes or so, maybe less. So a little less than 20 minutes. It's going to do the rendering at 1080p 60 frames per second. Okay, so the rendering of the 1080p 60 is done. Open that folder. V2 1080. Let's upload this thing. Switch that to unlisted. Done. Upload video. Grab my folder. What was it last time? What, 33 minutes to upload? Let's see what we get this time. Haha. Wow. So 5.5 minutes of footage at 1080p 60 uploads in about 6 minutes. So let me go over some of the pros and cons of doing all this while this is uploading, because it may actually take less than 6 minutes. So, pros of it. So recording in 1080p 60 gives you a higher frame rate. Unless you have some of the newer cameras, they can record 60 frames per second on 4K. But for those of us that don't, it gives you a higher frame rate, which is great for fast movement and good lighting. 1080p 60 uses less battery and less card space regardless of the camera. Offloading 1080p 60 from your camera to your PC takes less time and space for the same amount of footage if you recorded in 4K. Converting it to 4K allows the footage to have a higher bit rate when you upload it into YouTube. So if the viewer can handle it, we'll see higher detailed images on their end in the moving shots. Now that's something again you have to consider, is what are your viewers watching it on, if it's a mobile device, or what is their internet connection like? Because that's going to affect what they get on their end. Now here's some of the cons. Rendering is a lot more time intensive, as you just seen. You're looking at, for 5 minutes of footage, taking 33 minutes. So if you shot a 10-minute video, you're looking at an hour, maybe longer, depending on what all's involved. Sending the amount of data, uploading 4K onto YouTube, I wouldn't recommend it if you have limited data plans or if you have some kind of throttle in place on your internet service. And of course the uploading takes much longer, which I already talked about. So all in all, yeah, I think if you look at the links below, you'll see that the same footage uploaded as 4K, even though they're both shot at 1080p 60, is going to appear a little better, or a lot better. But again, I was asked to show this. I want to thank Hippo-Drones for putting his video out there explaining the hypothesis and giving me credit for that. I'm going to give credit to Superballs Supervids, because he was the one that first started thinking about the subject on motovlog.com. And if you enjoy videos like this, please let us all know. I have links to their channels down in the description below. So our upload is almost complete. I hope you've found that this video is helpful. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and roll the credits.